Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We are back, the Happy Event Planner, edition number 5. After this long summer break, we are back and it's great to be back. My name is Oliver. I'm Community Manager for the Happy Event Planner and Head of Marketing at Sweap. Sweap is the beautiful virtual event platform that you are currently using and viewing this event on. We have a very exciting topic today for you and a very special guest who I'm going to introduce in a moment, or actually both of them are going to introduce themselves in a moment. So for everyone who's new, great to have you. We are a global event professionals community. So we offer not only these events, we offer loads of content, we offer special deals, etc. You can find a banner under this live stream to join our Slack community. So if you don't use Slack yet, give it a try, join our community, meet other global event professionals and connect yourself with them and find resources, etc. So I think the platform is quite self-explanatory today. You've got a chat and a Q&A session on the side. Please, if you have any questions during the event, especially for our speakers, just add them in the Q&A session and you'll be able to I'll be asking the questions later on for the speakers. So one more thing before we start, in case you plan to share anything out of this session on social media, we'd love you to. Please use our Happy Event Profs hashtag and mark your posts with it. So I think without any further ado, we can jump directly into the sessions and welcome our speakers. Before we do, I want to show you a very short video because we met our guest speaker, or one of our guest speakers, Sophie, at the IMEX the past year. And I just want to show you a quick video for you to understand why she's here today.
IMEX story.
I think whether or not it's about content or experience, I think it just depends on what people want to get out of it ultimately. But I think with content you can often then do it more afterwards now. So with content you can sort of absorb it and consume it wherever, whenever, however, which we didn't really have before. So then it allows you to enjoy yourself more at an event and pick up on the content later, or even before. Get involved in the content before, so when you come on site you've engaged with it more and talk about it more, like a book club or something. Pre, post, during, always on. So that's how we're going to get into the 365. Before the pandemic, didn't we say pre and during and post? I mean, how many event plans I wrote over the years saying that. So I think it's exciting right now. I think we're all experimenting a little bit. I think the industry's iterating and trying things.
So I think that was a perfect introduction to today's topic. Hi guys, lovely to have you. Sophie, Florian, welcome on the show. Maybe you want to take a moment to introduce yourself. We'll start with our special guest, Sophie. Who are you and why are you here today?
Hi, I'm Sophie Ahmed. I'm the SVP of Market Strategy for Hubilo. I've been with Hubilo since March, but prior to that, I was the CEO and founder of the Virtual Events Institute, which was all about upskilling and training during the pandemic around digital and hybrid events. And then prior to that, I'd been in the events industry for about 22 years across Reed Exhibitions, Informa and Essential, where I was on Money 2020 and Cannes Lions.
So a huge amount of experience that we're going to be profiting from today in this session. Thanks, Sophie. Flor, it's not your first time here, obviously. Nevertheless, we have a few new guests. Maybe you want to introduce yourself as well.
Yes, sure. My name is Florian. I'm a CEO platform. And yes, I'm super happy to join Sophie in this conversation because the topic event value gap is really close to my heart, and I think something that will shape the future of event management and marketing. And yes, thanks for having me here, Oliver.
Fantastic, Flor. Thank you. So you brought up the topic already, event value gap. Now, I'm quite sure some of our listeners, or maybe even most of our listeners, haven't really heard this term about that much, at least not the exact expression. So, Flor, let's keep with you for a second. Maybe you can just start by describing what you interpret the event value gap as.
Yes, sure. For me, the event value gap is about the time between two events, because what we have seen for the past decade is, or like since events are in business, that like people organizing events with a strong focus on that one-time experience. So we see like everything is put into this 3-hour to 3-day experience that we deliver to guests, and then post-event we send out a feedback email or a thank you email, and then that's it until the next event. And the time during or the time between those events is something that I call the event value gap, because there's so much value in it. There's so much you can do with your audience. There's so much value you can put out there, so much content that you can use. And like we see that starting modern marketing teams do that already. And events become more and more a strategic part of a marketing strategy, content strategy, research strategy. And now it's about really to focus on that gap and close that gap as something valuable for the audience and not just the attendees.
Sophie, you just mentioned before that you've been in the events industry quite a while. Do you have the feeling that this topic, event value gap, has been around forever, or is this maybe something that's coming up more and more? And if it is, why now?
It's always been around, whether people realised it, what it was or not, but it's always been around. I mean, I started in the 90s, and what we did was we would have an event promo schedule. We called it Vis Prom and Ex Prom, visitor promotion, exhibitor promotion. And you would have set times. So like Vis Prom wouldn't start till about 3 to 4 months before. So if you're on an annual event, say it's a trade show or a large scale event, you're on an annual event, nothing, you just finish the event, bye, off you go. And then you got to start again from scratch. It's really hard. You've got to just start again from scratch. You're going to start your email nurture 3 to 4 months out. And then you have like your sort of X amount that you're going to do each week. And this was before social media, so everything's just advanced to fit this. So really for 6 months of the year, it was quite dormant. Maybe you'd have sales reps going out and seeing some of the exhibitors and sponsors, but it was quite dormant really, which made it really, really hard to pick up the momentum and to get the same number of people back, but then to grow it was equally hard, because then you've got to get the same number of people back and then you've got to find the new people. So that was hard. So I feel that it's great that people are starting to realize this. And I think technology has certainly helped enable this. But also, if you look at it from a customer or your customer's perspective, the attendees, why not give them more value throughout the year that they associate it with your brand? They're more likely to come back. They're more likely to tell their friends. So you're going to get the advocacy and the network effect, and so on and so on. So yeah, I think it's always been there. It's just that people probably didn't realize what it was.
Mm-hmm. Flo, do you have something to add on your experience? Since when have you been speaking about this topic, and since when is it important to you?
Well, that was a perfect expression. I think there you can see all her experience, Sophie. This is great because, as you know, I'm coming from not an event management background. I'm in that space for 10 years now. But what I see is more from a strategic perspective, is like that. So much money is spent on events, and everybody's questioning the purpose of events, what ROI, and what can we get back. And like still there's like people, when they talk about events from a strategic perspective, it's all about lead gen and generate leads. And what I want to see, or what I like try to tell the people out there, is like that you have to change the mindset a bit and focus on different topics, that like kind of that sales is like a kind of the second step or the third step after an event. It's not like what you do at events is trying to sell something and then generate leads. And with that mindset shift, you can really focus on different things during the event planning and during your event, because if you have a different focus, you might find that like kind of golden nuggets in the content, in the conversations that you have, that you then reuse and then like drive people down the funnel without like sell to them. And this is what people don't like these days. People don't want to get sold.
So I hear a lot there. I hear content creation and reuse of content. I hear leads, funnels, a lot of marketing, the cooperation between sales and marketing teams there. What, like if we go to an ideal world, or can you guys map out what should happen between events? What should marketers and event professionals do between events to fill this gap?
Sophie, you go first.
Well, I feel like in business, when we're talking about events with regards to the business world, there's two types. I know I sort of mentioned this earlier. There's those who own events and run it. That's their business. You know, trade shows, large scale events, their business is to run events. So they're going to have exhibitors and sponsors and they're going to have attendees. But then there's also the second part are those companies who are using events for brand building, data lead generation, and so on and so on. So with the digitization of events, with the latter sector, the second group, you know, with the digitization of events, more and more people now can use events to really get close to their customers, to generate leads. But as I was saying earlier, you know, really it's competing with Google, it's competing with PPC, because you could spend 100 grand and get leads from PPC, or you could spend 100 grand and get leads through a digital event. And I feel like if you get leads from a digital event, it's going to be more funneled, it's going to be more qualified, you're going to understand their behaviors and their, you know, through analytics, you're going to understand what content are they engaging with, who are they meeting with. So you're going to understand your prospects more than you ever would from another lead gen system. But also they might be existing customers. So now you're going to get even to them, are going to, you know, increase the number of customer touch points that you would have had done another way. So through events, you're increasing the number of customer touch points, you're getting closer to your customers and your prospects, you're gaining greater insight into them, greater analytics into their behaviors, which is really powerful. And then through all this, you know, analytics and increased insights and increased touch points, you can actually then tailor what you send to them. You can tailor your messaging, how to engage with them, when to engage with them, and so on and so on. So you keep funneling them throughout the year. And it can sync straight into your CRM, you know, so you can get some great immediate outreach to your prospects and your customers. And, you know, to the point about content, you can keep this content on demand, which you can then use for content marketing, because you're going to know what personas were engaging with it, what the pain points were. Or you just have it on your website to attract people and have a data grab form and use it to get data, or you could do both really. But there's so much opportunity now, I think, with the digitization of events as being used as part of the digital marketing strategy, which it really wasn't before.
Does this make events the most powerful marketing channel, guys?
Always have been, in my opinion.
I give it a clear yes, of course.
Okay, lovely. Flor, Sophie mentioned a lot about grabbing data in different touch points. Now, you had a very, very interesting session here on the Happy Event Planner not long ago with Francesca Rodriguez-Balit about the attendee journey. How does the whole topic of attendee journey play into this world of event value gap? How important is it to map out a proper journey and the touch points in order to close this gap?
Well, I think this is key. This is the basics. And like the mistake that I see people do is that they define the journey from I send out a save the date, and then I end right with the event, or maybe the day after sending out a recording or sending out the feedback form. Mm-hmm. And this is what we have to change. If you think it in a journey like a 365 journey of kind of, okay, I want to build this, I knew this is a buzzword, but if you have this community approach and say, hey, I don't want to make this a one-time attendee, I want to build a relationship, and then you define a journey from not only inviting people and then have people attend it, at the event, but also from, okay, how do I communicate with them between the events, post-event? If you plan that, if you really have that like purpose in mind, then you start thinking different. And then all what Sophie just said, that was perfect. Like all the opportunities are in front of you. You can gain so much more data. You can use that data. You can really amplify all your other marketing strategies, content, research, all that stuff based on what you do with your event and with the event content.
Absolutely. Back to you, Sophie. You mentioned, as I said already, the whole getting data and collecting data throughout the process. You as SVP Market Strategy of a virtual event platform, where is the moment that we should start collecting this data? I'll just explain the background quickly of this question. I read a post recently that registration forms for events aren't meant to be a lead capture form, and I somewhere agree with that up to a certain extent. Where do we collect this data if it's not in a long registration form with loads of questions to answer? How do you approach that topic?
Do you know, this has been an age-old question, even in purely in-person events. So we used to say, do we just make our registration form a lot shorter to encourage more people to register, and then we'll sort of funnel it and through email nurture get more understanding? So I think that's always been there, that question. For me, I think there's two. When we talk about data, it's twofold. We're talking about raw data in terms of like, who are you? What's your company? What are your interests? What are your areas? How many people are in your company? What's your budget? Stuff like that. But then also there's the sort of data, the analytics part. So what's the trend when they're in the event? What are they watching? What are they consuming? Who are they meeting? What segments are they meeting? And so on. So I feel like with the first part, with the registration part, you should try and find somehow a happy medium. Because in the best will in the world, you think we'll just do a short and sweet data grab and then we're going to get all that information later. You're probably not. So you just need to make peace with yourself. Like, what is the absolute must have? So I would always suggest, if it's a business event, something around budget, you know, something around what is their areas of interest. So you have 6 areas of interest, because you're going to have to match them, or you're going to have to understand, and you're going to have to segment your, you know, your email nurture data and so on. So just get a few key questions in there, even if you can't get them all, because you may not get all of it later. And then rely on technology to get the rest for you, to really understand. They might tick this area of interest and you'll put them in that cohort, that micro community, but actually how they behave might not even correlate. So I think what we're now getting towards is more powerful than people filling in forms. We've actually got the data and analytics to understand behaviors. And that's the true sign. You know, before or after an event, you'd expect people to fill in the post-event survey, but really only 10 to 20% fill it in, don't they? So the other 80%, we have no idea what they thought about that event. But now through technology, we're going to get an idea. We're going to see, how long did they stay? Did they stay for the duration? Did they come in and out? You know, did they, you know, do a lot of activity? Were they really engaged? And stuff like that. So, but I think this data point, which is the most powerful point at registration, even though you don't want to put loads in, certainly get as much as you can in without being too annoying.
You mentioned technology here a few times now. Question to both of you. What's the perfect tech stack that we need to, I know, cheeky question here. What's the perfect tech stack that we need to close this gap? So obviously the event will have its perfect event platform, whichever it may be. But what are the other tools that a marketer will need to really, really, really close that gap?
That's a tough question.
Well,
yeah, of course, as everything in marketing, talking about data, you have to have a solid CRM system running, right? Otherwise, like if you don't have that, you always like flying blind, I would say. And we all know how hard it is to keep CRM data accurate and up to date and all that stuff. And then it really depends, Oliver. I mean, like some people are looking for that all-in-one platform, does it all. Some others say, hey, I want to move specific piece of data into a specific place, and then I have a specific tool for it. For example, let's go back to the registration form. So maybe you said, hey, we see super good results in using Typeform or something like that if we do something with forms. So I really want to use Typeform as a registration form for my event. So all of a sudden you have like a tool that is not really a tool for marketing or events or especially events, but then you want to use it. So for me, it's always like kind of find the right tool set. Depends really on who's working with it and what's the purpose. So, and for me, strong capturing data is one thing. The platform itself, if we're talking about the digital event, of course, you need a solid platform to do that. For me, it's not rocket science. It not necessarily needs to be the biggest platform. I have participated in really, really valuable events that were just a Zoom call. And then the content piece for me is like one of the most important things. So like, where do I put the event content? How can I reuse it? But then again, you have social media platforms. So I think for in these days, it's all about the connection. Like there's not this one tool or two tools. What you have to have is a solid connection to different tools. And then the setup like is totally different from what you're really looking for.
Thanks, Flo. Sophie, do you have something to add there?
I think that to a certain extent that it's all happened so quickly that it's overwhelming for a lot of event marketers and a lot of event planners. And I think the main thing is to try and keep it to the point that it's not overwhelming, because almost sometimes people are having too much. They're having too many different components in their tech stack. So, get it sorted, get the foundations right first, get the data in. How are you understanding that data? How are you funneling that data? How are you segmenting that data so that you can create some really bespoke campaigns that speak to each persona's pain points, and drivers and so on. So that's really important. And then how are you collating the responses so you understand open rates, who's opening what, so you can build on it for better campaigns in the future. Content marketing, particularly with this on-demand piece we've talked about, how can you integrate that lovely on-demand video content you didn't have before directly into campaigns, and also to the point where you can get the analysis as well. So I think all of that is really helpful in terms of that. But I think, try and not make it too complicated, that actually your tech stack is running your business and it's running your campaigns. It's like the tail wagging the dog, as we say over here in the UK. So as a saying, but remember that it's your tech stack. You choose the tech and the tech should be right for you. And less is more sometimes. Single sign-on, try and make it as seamless and as integrated as possible as well is so important.
Yeah, I think especially this topic of personalization and segmentation is a big one. And as we already mentioned before, the events, they just explain so much about people's behavior. So it's kind of this golden nugget for in the marketing world for really knowing what to give to whom and directing different campaigns to different target groups. So fully agreed on that one. Flo, I think you wanted to add something on top. I saw you. Did I see you?
No, sorry. I was just listening and amazed somehow how Sophie put it.
Okay, lovely. Question regarding the role of the people who are closing the gap. Who are these people? I mean, we've heard event professionals, the term, we've heard event planners, we've heard event marketers, we've heard sales team. Who closes this gap? Who should own this role and has to do it in the end and really come up with the strategy behind it?
Should I go first, Sophie?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah, for me. I think what we see right now is a distinction between the event planner and event marketer. I would say that because, for me, events should be a team sport. There's no one person who can do it, right? There's kind of people who are the great organizers who can bring everything together, keep an eye on everything. And there are other people that are great communicators. and they know how to communicate to a specific audience, and they know they're good copywriters and all that stuff. But if it comes to owning the who's closing the gap, there's not sorry, there's not this one role closing it. I think it really depends on your team size, but what it really is like have someone who's focusing on not only the on-event experience, but also pre and post-event. And I think this is more a mindset thing. And of course, what you have to do is you have to communicate in a good way. So I would put it on demand gen content side of the business when it comes to closing the gap, but and not really the classical event planner. So event marketers, I think they are the best fit to own the communication around the event if they have the right mindset.
Sophie.
I think it goes back to what I was saying, like in terms of there's two types of events, aren't there? There's the people who own it and run it as their trade shows, as their business model. And then there's those that are using it as part of their marketing mix to generate leads and build the brand and so on. I think if you're in the first category, you probably want your event director, group event director involved. And I think then they would work closely with marketing and content. And then they would map it out. And then day to day, I think the person that would own it would be in marketing. And depending on how big the teams are, it would depend on who did it. I think for the second part, where you're doing it for lead gen and so on, then the head of marketing would probably want to be involved from the beginning when they're devising that actual journey as to what that data from that single first moment, that person, that data entry touches your brand through to bottom of the funnel. You need to map that out and where the events fit within that. But then I think day to day, probably to Florian's point, would probably then land with your content and your demand gen teams.
So would you say that bigger teams have more opportunities and bigger chances to really fill this pre and post phase, or is it more about the skill sets of the single individual?
In theory, yes, but often, as we know, when the teams get bigger, sometimes things slip through the crack and it gets more bureaucratic. So, I mean, who knows?
Flo, what do you think? Bigger team, better team, or is it more about...
Not really. I mean, doing it alone is really hard. Running an event program and being a one-man show or one-woman show is like this is not really the thing. I think you can do a pretty good job with like 3 people, I would say. The less people you have, the more it's about the skill set, I would say. So you have to have this marketing mindset. You have to think in data. You have to think more strategically if you're running event programs. So it's not this kind of project management approach anymore. It's more like a business strategic marketing approach. So I think from a skill set, or the less people you have on the team, the more you have to make sure that the person running events really has this marketing mindset.
Absolutely. I fully agree on that one. It's content. It's someone who knows how to distribute the content in a good way. Maybe copywriters. I mean, we've had this in previous sessions as well, the importance of good event copy. I mean, this goes through the whole marketing world. Obviously, the better you write, the more people you can emotionally touch. But so for me as well, I fully agree on what you guys say. And team size, as we also see at the Happy Event Planner here, it's a small team behind the whole project. I still have the feeling we're doing a fairly good job. So perfect. Back to the content topic. Now, Flo, you and me, we speak a lot about this off camera, how to reuse content. Now, we reuse content in our campaigns currently. Everyone who's following Sweap on LinkedIn will see a lot of little snippets, 1 to 2 minutes with recommendations, fantastic recommendations by the speakers who have been on here. How, in general, have you seen how it's evolved, how content is being used through the switch to digital over the last years? And how do you have the feeling that it's really improving the world of marketing and events?
What I see is that most of the content that really does the job, I would say, is content that clearly coming from people for people. So what I see is less and less is this kind of marketing content of something, an ebook is sold, or like a kind of, here is a template from a company perspective. It's more like, Sophie is on LinkedIn and sharing her insights or like the video that is recorded during an event, but it's Sophie who owns it, and it's Sophie's message, and the same here. So what I see in content is it's really coming down to a more personal approach. And we all know that phrase, like people buy from people, not from companies. So if you put that tag on the content piece and you really try to amplify this personal approach, then I think there you can see all the best results.
Absolutely. Sophie, what's your opinion on the evolution of event content?
Yeah, I think it's amazing. I mean, look, prior to all of this, when we were doing our research for speakers and content, you do a minimum of 100 hours research calls. That was the number you had to do. And you'd be, scratching around, trying to find new people to speak to and so on and so on. But now, again, through technology, we can push this on-demand content out there and really see who's engaging with it, see who's downloading the forms to watch it afterwards. Then we can approach them to be speakers too, or to do research with us. So I think we're getting a much greater insight into who's engaging with what content. And I know I mentioned it on the clip you played at the beginning about how we can watch it whenever, however, and all of that, which I think is incredible. So we're using it for data gen. We're learning behaviors as well. But I also think as we're taking it into the community's feeding the content's feeding the community. So actually, we're using on-demand content in the community after the event. People are commenting on it, people are interacting on it, and they're giving us new ideas for the next event. So it's like a bit of a cycle now. So event into the community into the event, and we keep going and going. And then it becomes more real and it becomes more relevant, because actually your community, your industry is shaping the content, which is what we always wanted, but it was so hard to do. But now we're getting into this point where, your market, your customers are creating the content with you. So it's content creation. I know you mentioned that earlier, and content curation. And then you can start pushing it to different personas based on it. So then it just becomes more and more personalized, more around segmentation, and people always get more value when it's more personalized. So I think it's a really exciting time, particularly for content right now.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think so.
I love that.
The content managers around the world are very excited about what's happening here. I mean, personally, I see one evolution, at least with myself. Maybe you guys are going through the same. This whole on-demand thing has obviously opened a lot of doors, as we've mentioned a few times now. And the decision to give away content for free and not close it into one specific time and space has really opened doors to create content. And it doesn't matter if the actual event only has 10% of the people who should be watching the content, as long as the 90% are added later. What I see with myself is there are so many events currently going around. I mean, I'm sure you guys have all these invitations in your inboxes as well. And I tend to sign up even though I know that I can't attend. I think this is something that most event managers and marketers nowadays even want you to do or expect you to do. I'm just realizing more and more that I've become so free with this, I'm going to watch that later kind of lifestyle, that it's starting to pile up a little bit, and I'm kind of not catching up on the actual event content there. So something that I've written down on my list is to also really send a nurturing campaign out to the people who have signed up but haven't really attended, and not only hey, we missed you, here is the content, you can rewatch it, but maybe 2 weeks later, if they haven't watched it yet, another quick reminder to tell them like, hey, the content's still waiting for you. It's all there, on demand, because it's just like piling up these events that I haven't actively participated in. maybe you have the same experiences.
We used to always call that pre-reg non-attendee, PR, and then we'd give initials for everything. So, they've pre-registered, they're coming to your event, they haven't shown up.
Yeah.
So you would have your own campaign to that group, to that cohort, and you'd have your own messaging, your own emails, your own everything to your pre-reg non-attendees.
Pre-reg non-attendees, I love it. We're going to write that one down, Flo.
That's a good one. Yeah, for me, what I would add, this is why it's so important that you cut your content into pieces, like small videos that you can post on social media with the key findings, with the key results of the event and what your speaker's coming up with. So, I mean, like we have now at least 5 to 6 small snippet videos showing Sophie telling the world how event marketing is done right and how data is to be used. So I think this is the point. And if you, Oliver, you sign up for an event and you get the recording afterwards and you see it's a 45-minute recording. So when do you find the time to watch it? Actually, 45 minutes is a long time. But if you like cross my profile or another profile from one of the speakers or from the event organizer on LinkedIn, and you see that 2-minute video with like this 3 or 4 really, really interesting quotes, you kind of get the content, you observe the content over time. And it's not this one, like I have to consume everything in 45 minutes. It's kind of, I can get all the points from the social media or from TikTok or wherever. So I think this is what people have to keep in mind, that yes, a lot of people register not for attending live, but for get the content afterwards. And if you really want to amplify this, really try to distribute it through different channels and not only sharing the recording.
Yeah, I fully agree that this multi-channel approach, I mean, we have to always keep in mind how people consume content nowadays. And I really already expect to re-watch something of it on a public social media channel after the event. I don't only expect to see it, even as a reminder. And that's where these snippets that you just mentioned, they are perfect, obviously, to remind people that they can still watch the full event there and there or on this platform. Lovely. I have one possibly last question for you guys for now. We still have the Q&A afterwards. Flo, you mentioned already how this working together with other teams within the company is enhanced through closing the event value gap. How can, for example, sales profit from data that's delivered from field marketing and event marketing? How can they profit? Not because we all know events usually aren't meant to be sales guided, or at least most of them. How does this work in a practical sense? How does sales benefit from all this?
Well, first of all, sales need to participate, I would say. Like otherwise, it's kind of pure data that sits in a CRM system, right? So if they don't experience it, if they don't with you with the event, it's quite hard to really transfer it. So I think most value comes from seeing these personal conversations, being in these personal conversations, and then not like get like a list of data points where you just then they can say, okay, what I can see here, they downloaded this piece of content, they attended the event, they were interested in this talk. I mean, this is a good starting point to start a personal conversation, of course. But if you really involve the sales team, talking about the goal of the event, are we creating demand? Are we trying to capture demand? Are we like, do we want to like strengthen our brand, or is the purpose of really is it more down the funnel, a field marketing event, approaching existing opportunities that you're already talking to? So this is like you have to talk to the sales team and you have to involve them in the whole process, and they have to get why you're running this event, and not put some lists in front of them and then, hey, go with the data.
Absolutely, love that. Sophie, do you have anything to add?
No, I just think to your last point, a lot of people do events without really involving the salespeople, which just seems insane to me, because actually they should be saying we should be doing this and we should be attracting this audience and this is what we're hearing. So it's really got to be a collaboration, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think this is the ongoing Damocles sword of every company, the communication between the sales and marketing department. We've all been there, we all know it. Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic, guys. I once again have the feeling we've really gathered a lot of interesting insights and content here. We only have one question in the Q&A today, and it was asked by Kathy, one of our community members. And I'm going to ask both of you. I'm sure you have different opinions on the answer. I'll just read it out as the question was asked. I struggle with sales reps who think trade shows, particularly Vegas, are their personal party vacation. Inside sales staff are often much more effective on the show floor, but I'm often met with resistance. Looking for tips to engage upper management in carefully selecting staff and holding them accountable. Now, might not be 100% event value gap related, but I'm sure Kathy took a good look at the speakers who are there today and their expertise, and this is why we have this question. Thank you, Kathy. And guys, your floor, how can we help her?
Sophie, you go first.
It's an age-old question, and how do you make sure that the sales team are working when they're actually at an event, and how do you prove that? So again, it goes back now to technology. We've got so many ways now that we didn't have before. And there's so many things you can do on your stand, on your booth for your sales team. You can pre-book meetings, you can have complete visibility internally, exactly who's meeting who, when are they meeting them, and then it can plug straight into the CRM afterwards, and you can actually see how that lead then funneled and if the salesperson followed it up and so on. And then you could do like a competition on your stand as well. You could say who had the most meetings, A, from pre-booked and from other people who came on, and you can keep direct count now, and you can actually follow up 3 months, 6 months, within a year, who closed the most leads from an event per sales team and so on. So it's much better now with technology and event apps and so on to understand what people are actually doing. And now you've also got trackers and beacons as well, so you can see, although it won't necessarily tell you exactly if they're your sales team or not, but you can certainly get more of an understanding now.
Technology is key. As so often, once again, technology is key. Flo, what do you have an opinion on this?
It's such a funny question because I love that they use it for personal party, especially Vegas. I would say going more to the second point, how do I get the buy-in from the management team? But first of all, you have to make crystal clear what's the goal. Why are we sending people there? Like, what's the meaning? Are we trying to meet customers that are already customers? Are we trying to meet new prospects? Are we trying to meet people that are currently in the funnel? Is it all of them, right? Because it's a bigger trade show and we might find customers. And then I would try to match the people who might be there with people who should talk to them. And if the inbound sales people are doing a much better job, I would question that. Why is that? Because they don't have the personal connection, because salespeople fly to Vegas and they already know the people and they love to party together. Fine, as long as if they bring money back, that's okay for me. But if not, I would really talk to the management. Hey, what's the goal? Why are we investing 100K? And then I would break it down to say, hey, if we want to meet new potential clients, or if we want to meet new people, then we might send a mix of people who already have connections, because we all are humans. We connect with people that we already know way easier than people that we don't know. And if you send somebody who doesn't know anyone there, they are quite open to really connect with the people, to talk to them. And there is things you can go back to the basics and then talk to them. If your management don't get it, ask the questions how they would want to get the return of invest from investing 100, 250, 500K, whatever it is.
Absolutely. The question, is it worth investing that, or is it worth investing in other types of events or other sources? Absolutely. I think this is something that management really has to confront themselves again and again and again and again with. So, Katie,
I like the competition part that Sophie just mentioned, like make it a competition. So salespeople love competitions. And if it's like you can own your ticket for the next year, perfect. So try something like that.
fantastic, guys. So before we close this session, I'm sure our viewers are very interested in where they can find you, where they can get in contact if they have any more questions, or just follow you and read your advice on the socials. So time to plug your pluggables. Sophie, where can people find you?
So I'm on LinkedIn, Sophie Ahmed, Hubilo, or my email address is Sophie, Sophie, at Hubilo, HUBILO.com. So yeah, I mean, if you don't know Hubilo, it's pretty cool. I mean, I know lots of technology. I was the CEO of the Virtual Events Institute during the last 2 years pandemic. So it's got some pretty cool tech, I can tell you. So check us out.
Absolutely. Flo, where can we find you?
Also on LinkedIn, Florian Kühne. You will find me with that hat on. And of course, via email, florian@sweap.io is the email address. DMs always welcome. Love to talk to you.
Fantastic. If everyone wants to have it a step easier, go back to the registration page or a little bit further down into the speakers module. I've linked the LinkedIn profiles of both of you. So lovely. Guys, this has been very insightful, exactly what I expected. Great start after the summer break. I really hope that our community members enjoyed it as much as I did. So from my side, huge thank you. Sophie, I'm sure our paths will cross on various points again, latest at IMEX next year when I stand with a microphone and a camera in front of you.
Are you going to IMEX Vegas? Talking of Vegas, are you going to...
Talking of Vegas, talking of IMEX, me personally, I'm not. Flo, as far as I know, you're not as well. We have the convenience of being in the country where IMEX is happening. So Frankfurt is our way to go.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'll be at Vegas. If anyone not watching is going to be at Vegas, come and say hi.
Kathy, for example, it seems like she's there. Maybe you guys can go for a coffee.
Oh, cool. Come and see me. We've got a stand there. Come and say hi.
Lovely. Guys, thank you very much. Speak very soon. And I'll just let you go while I say goodbye to the community and announce the next event. So see you. Have a lovely day.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Hey,
Nice
bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Sophie.
Bye.
So I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as I did. I really think Sophie and Flo, they come from totally different aspects of event professionalism, but really combined into this fantastic team with loads and loads of insights. So the last thing before I let you guys go is announce our next event that is going to happen on the 20th of September, 25th of October. I think my graphic friend here might have not changed the date on this one. Speak to you later, Rafa. So anyway, 25th of October, Chloe Richardson from Explory is joining Flo again on the topic of event data. So something I'm really looking forward to. Please join. You will all receive the invite very soon. Otherwise, as I mentioned, there is a banner under this live stream. If you want to join our event community, we're always very welcome. Very happy to welcome a few new guests. This was it for today. Thank you very much for joining. Have a lovely morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you're joining from, and we'll see you very soon. Take care.